April 12, 2024 was a milestone in the field of multiple myeloma. ODAC, the Oncologic Drugs Advisory Committee that helps the FDA to provide recommendations on the next steps for drug approval, was served with the task of giving the FDA recommendations and advice on how to handle minimal residual disease as a regulatory endpoint. I had the honor to present work from the evidence meta-analysis. And this is work that I pioneered for 15 years. I started this work when I worked at the National Cancer Institute at the NIH outside Washington, D.C., and I continued for very many years. And this is a large worldwide study in collaboration with all the pharma companies and also with many of the academic groups around the world. We presented to ODAC the results from our study. We had developed the statistical analysis plan with the FDA. We worked closely with the FDA. We had received all the data sets from all the participating partners, and we provided the FDA with our report about a year ago. And then they have reanalyzed everything. They got all the raw data, all the statistical code. At the ODAC meeting, the I² team also were invited, and they have done a similar analysis. And they also presented, and we were collaborating at ODAC. After our presentations, the FDA made their presentation where they looked at both the groups' presentations and they had worked on their own analysis. And after that, ODAC, just as they always do, had their continued discussion, and then the chairman asked all the members of ODAC to vote. And it was fantastic to see that yes was provided by 12 of the voting members, and nobody voted no. So 12-0, that's better than any soccer game I have ever watched. Now the FDA has been handed the information from the ODAC, the advisory committee, and we anticipate that the FDA will go forward, and hopefully we will have MRD as an endpoint for accelerated approval. Why is this important? We know that in the newly diagnosed setting for multiple myeloma, the drugs are too good in terms of reaching an overall response. An overall response is the only surrogate endpoint that has been approved for multiple myeloma for the accelerated approval path. So if you want to do overall response, the control arm is going to be somewhere between 90 and 99%. So that's very hard to improve upon. So instead you have to wait for progression-free survival. And progression-free survival means that you have to wait for a lot of events. So in a nutshell, if you design a study in 2024 without MRD as an endpoint for accelerated approval, you will have to enroll all the patients, which takes about 2 or more years, wait for the data to mature, that takes 8 to 10 years, and then you have your results. But with MRD as a regulatory endpoint for accelerated approval, and the language the government would use is an endpoint reasonably likely to predict clinical benefit, that's what MRD will do. You could do that after the last patient has been randomized, and approximately we showed about a year into the follow-up. So enroll patients for 2, 3, or 4 years, and then you check your MRD, and you could have your results after just a few years instead of waiting for 10 or 15 years. So this will speed up drug approval. You could have drugs approved 2 to 3 times faster in the newly diagnosed setting. And in the relapse setting, today, we use overall response rate in patients with the relapse refractory disease. Similarly, more and more patients are achieving an overall response rate. So with MRD, you can test after, say, about a year or so, and you would have the results for an accelerated approval. The trial still will have to continue and capture both progression-free and overall survival. But even in the relapse refractory setting, with MRD becoming a surrogate endpoint for the accelerated approval process, we are talking about speeding up drug approval by a factor of 2 to 3. So it's all about rapid access to new treatments for patients. This decision, we hope the FDA will make the final decision, will mean that we are saving many years of life for patients. And this will also allow us to develop curative treatments for multiple myeloma.